Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. Late again. I know. I'm trying to get things back under control. Just been crazy. Anyway, this might be the most modern current segue I've done to date, as both of these songs are from the past 5 years. The first song is How Good It Feels by Will Dailey and the Rivals, and the second song is Eulogy for a Rock Band by Weezer. Now, you might know either of these songs, you might not, so we're going to go through them as you might expect. Both are pretty upbeat, tempo-wise at least. The first song is much happier a message than the second. They're both in the key of B. How Good It Feels is the first track on the Will Dailey and the Rivals album, which was Will Dailey's, I think it's pretty much his arena rock record at the behest of the record company. I really like the record, but it has a tumultuous backstory to it, which makes the fact that this is the lead-off song on it a lot more ironic, given where the story came from and where it has since gone. But it's a big, grand opening number. There's a whole string section, and it's the story of a man who has shed all of the complications of his life, all of the negativity, all of the worries, the doubts, and the troubles, and is living not necessarily the grandest of lives, but a free and happy life. And again, just to give you a bit of a taste of the story, Will and his record company had a falling out shortly after this record was made because he was very constricted by the higher-ups. He's told the story many times. It's the story behind his most recent album, so you can go out there and read it for yourself for more detail. The funny thing is, this song could very well describe his, after leaving the record company and putting out his own record, which has now been incredibly successful, the National Throat record that I've mentioned before and that everybody should check out if they haven't yet. So the funny thing is, this song kind of came true after its release, which I just find amazing. But it goes something like this. What I'm doing the right hand is the string section. I found victory in very dark places. I went from rags to riches and back to rags again. My pocket's empty and I settled my debts on all of my dirty deals. And how good it feels, how good it feels. There's the next verse, and so it's basically verse, refrain, bridge, verse, refrain, out. And it's a very simple song, very happy song, very uplifting. It's simple progression: B major, E flat minor, A flat minor. Actually, you call it D sharp minor, G sharp minor, E, because we're in the key of B. Now it's a sort of a step above what I've often referred to as the progression, which would be 1, 5, minor 6, 4, which would be an F sharp major instead of the D sharp minor, which is the relative minor. So it spices it up a little bit, but it's still a simple enough progression that it's easily relatable, easy enough to play, and just a pleasingly simple song. And it's one of my favorites, and in spite of the complications and the fact that, I don't know exactly who has the rights to this record and who makes the money off it anymore, but it's the Will Dailey and the Rivals record is still out there, and it is still definitely worth your time because the songwriting is just excellent. Now, Eulogy for a Rock Band by Weezer. It's a very interesting song. It's from their I think it's still their most recent record because it came out last year. It's a record called Everything Will Be All Right in the End. It's an unusual record because it's not really a concept record, but it uses a lot of motifs that carry through from multiple songs. Now, Weezer is they've become a bit of a punchline in music circles, and I don't think that's fair. From a distance, they do, if you're not listening closely, they do kind of sound like the antiseptic white bands, plastic vocals, chug, chug, chug guitars, only know how to play, straight 4/4 unimaginative lyrics. If you're not listening, they have the sound of the bands that I just described, but they are not one of those bands. I was, they've had a few records like that, but this particular record, I want to thank my brother Spencer Campbell for turning me on to this record, because I love it. And it's a great representation of there's so much more. Again, at a glance they might sound like that, but as soon as you start listening, there's time signature, complications, there's incredible lyrics, great chord progressions. It's just, it's like that other stuff I was talking about, but really good. So they're kind of the peak of that sound, if you ask me. They're the best band that you could lump, rather unfairly in this case, into that category. Now, Eulogy for a Rock Band is an anthemic farewell to a musical idol. And they've said that it's dedicated to a real band that inspired them, but they won't tell anybody who it is until all of the members of said real band have passed away. I don't know why. I mean, this is a great song. I imagine whoever it is would be honored to be celebrated in such a way. My theory is that it's the Grateful Dead, because there's a line, 50 years of ruling the planet, and the only band I know of that's been going for 50 years and has decided to stop, as they did at the Fare Thee Well shows earlier this year, is the Grateful Dead. The Who and the Rolling Stones have hit 50, but they're still going and show no signs of stopping. Maybe Tony Bennett, I don't know, but he's still going. I think it's the Grateful Dead, because Tony Bennett's not a rock band. Anyway, it goes something like this. And the verse is in G sharp minor, it goes to B major for the chorus.
It's been a good run, 50 years of ruling the planet, but now your light is fading. Adios, rock band that we love the most. This is a toast to what you did and all that you were fighting for. Who could do more, but time marches on. Words come and go. We will sing the melodies that you did long ago.
And it goes back to the verse. Now, in my world, of course, I'm still mourning for the Brew. So, when I sing this, I dedicate it to them. But that's another story. Now, you might have heard the chorus is one chord different from the verse progression of How Good It Feels, as opposed to How Good It Feels being B, D sharp minor, G sharp minor, E. Eulogy for a Rock Band's chorus is B, D sharp major, and you throw the 7 in there, G sharp minor, E. So it's one step further in the sort of the hierarchy of progressions that I've been talking about, and 1 degree further. I don't know if it's... I'm not making a qualitative statement here. I get myself started, and I think I know where I'm going with things, and then it all kind of unravels, and I'm left standing there with a sentence half finished. I mean, I'm sure this has happened to everybody out there, right? I can't be alone in this. But that similarity is going to be used to our advantage. Now, I like to do this as How Good It Feels into Eulogy for a Rock Band, because Eulogy for a Rock Band, you're at this point in time is probably, there's a greater chance that an audience will recognize it. I'm still hoping that eventually, once Will is on top of the musical world as he deserves to be, that he'll get the rights back to this old record and these songs, and it'll make a comeback. But so this goes into the audience psychology of playing the lesser known song first to go into the greater known song. Now, I don't even know if anyone would recognize Eulogy for a rock band so much, because it's not a hit per se, but it's really, really good. Now, I like to do How Good It Feels first. And because the moods of these songs, the first one is, very joyous, and the second is sort of a respectful admiration, but also nostalgia and a certain sense of mourning. You don't want to go from one back to the other. You want to do this a one-way segue, and you can do it both ways, and I'll show you how. But How Good It Feels ends. The string riff continues over the bridge progression. How good it feels, and it just ends there. Now, when I play it, I like to tack on the how good it feels that is in all the verses. And that was just the way I ended it when I played this song, but I thought, okay, I'll use that. So you have the bridge progression. And from here, I like to, because the chorus of Eulogy for a Rock Band is what's so similar, I like to play an instrumental chorus. And if you wanted, you could even keep doing the string riff in the right hand. It'll create an odd tension on this chord, but one that's not unheard of in rock music. And no one will know there's anything different until you get to the second part of the chorus. They might think this is some grand ending. And that is where I take pride in this little creative twist, because rather than finish the instrumental chorus and go into the verse the way the actual song does, sing the melodies that you did long ago, landing on this B chord for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then going to this G sharp minor to D sharp over G progression. Because it's instrumental and the lyrics aren't hanging on it, I omit this B entirely, and it makes it just a little more sudden, a little more flashy. So again, just to run through this whole thing again, that's the outro of How Good It Feels, tagging on the verse ending, then an instrumental chorus of Eulogy for a Rock Band, cutting the last chord and jumping straight to the first verse of Eulogy for a Rock Band, which all in one piece sounds like this. So last verse. Think of what you're gonna lose before you break it. Think of how much you will need before you take it. Just like in life, honey, you just gotta change the wheels. How good it feels. How good it feels. So as you can see, there's all these... This is made up of a bunch of smaller little acrobatics that each one in itself isn't extremely flashy, but you put it together and it's a really cool sort of streak of cool little tricks that you can do for your audience. Now, unfortunately, going the other way, I mean, I'm sure there are ways to do tricks like that, but it's actually it's much simpler to do. Just to start, how good it feels on the last note of Eulogy for a Rock Band, which be after the last chorus. Time marches on, worlds come and go. We will sing the melodies that you did long ago. See, it works really smoothly, and it's easy to do, but it doesn't have that same flash, to my mind at least. But of course, the reason I make these videos is so you can hear what I do and make your own decisions with it. Do it your own way, substitute different songs, change it up completely. I don't care. I mean, you know, you're as much the artist as I am, so I hope, you know, you do take this however you want and do whatever you want with it, because I'm just the messenger at this point. And to that effect, this is, I believe at last count, the 86th message I've brought to you. So we are counting down to episode 100 now. It's likely to come fairly early on in the new year, February, maybe early March. And oh boy, have I got something planned. So stay tuned as we count down to 100. And in the meantime, thanks as always for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed, hopefully you've learned something, and I will see you next week.